Okay, so this is my title today, and Corona cannot defeat Korea. How South Korea fight against COVID-19. Actually, the title seems, a little bit strange or a little funny, okay? And actually, this is not the creation of my own, and that has been a campaign in Korea. And that is something, I want to use, and which is the big part of something we're going to talk about today. Hopefully, before I begin, I want to make sure, okay, the Korea is not the perfect example, and maybe one of the good and best example in the world right now. And also, we are not sure, okay, what kind of thing could happen, maybe in a bad way in Korea in future. So I'm very careful, okay, not to say and present this topic, together with you, not as a perfect example, but one of the example on the way. And so I don't want to be arrogant. Korea has done the great thing, and that's why everybody needs to learn. But I think we are working together. I think there are some dimensions maybe we can learn a little bit, and maybe we can continue to talk about it. So let's begin. Actually, every 10 o'clock a.m. in Korea, people gather together in front of TV and radio and trying to listen the regular daily briefing by Korean CDC, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. That has been there from the very early period of Corona issue. I think I remember since January 21st. During that time, not that many people really pay attention to it. But now it became kind of people's routine in Korea to listen. This woman, who is the director of KCDC, has to say on that day about what is the statistics and what is going on and what we need to follow to defeat Korea, the COVID-19. On the right side, people were trying to make her, because she became kind of hero, okay, within our country. And that is why they made this kind of drawing with her photo. And it says, COVID and Corona cannot defeat Korea. And that became kind of campaign within Korea. And I think it says a lot how we successfully work together against COVID-19. So there is another version of the same thing, and it all says Corona cannot defeat Korea in many different ways. And they are connecting this one as we need to be thankful. And thank you, Korean CDC. Thank you, medical professionals. Thank you, all the people who are joining together to work against COVID-19. So this is kind of campaign going on within Korea. And this was not developed by the government. It has been developed by just normal people. And they just started the very freely, the private campaign. And it became really famous and followed by a lot of people. We're going to come back to this issue again because this is something I want to share together with you about Korean, the way of treating COVID-19. Let me share some of the statistics, of Korea right now. Maybe you can have the little information about it. And as you can see, okay, and the top line is the total cases in Korea, the infection. And the second, the blue line is the active, the recovery, the cases. So the almost, recovery cases, catching up the total infection. The yellow is important, like orange. That is the daily confirmed case. So as you can see, okay, it was really high over here, suddenly in March, okay, and it suddenly dropped down and became stable up to this point. We had a little up over here, last like 2 weeks, and I'm gonna talk about it a little bit. And also the black line over here is the death case. And we have around like 200 death case, and which is one of the lowest, okay, in the world too. So let's talk about it, in other way. So I'm trying to show you, there is infection cases per day in Korea. And the one day, we had the more than like 1,000 cases per day, okay? And after that, it slows, goes down, and we had only 4 cases. That was the minimum, okay? And actually, all 4 cases came from the people who arrived from the other country. So there was 0 domestic case, one day, but there were some other, the breakout happened. And now, we have like stable, like 20, 30, or 40 cases per day right now. But I think this is stable way. You can see the deaths per day, the statistics, and the maximum was 9, and we had a very stable condition now, and 1 or 0. So that is what's going on and in Korea. I want to compare this one with some of the other cases. This is the daily confirmed the COVID-19 cases in the world. And as you can see now, and we have the big cases in the United States, a little bit down, but still continue. We have the Brazil over here. And I was trying to put all the countries, we are right now, okay? And including the, Argentina, Germany, and the South Korea is over here right now. So I think we are pretty stable, okay, over here. If you can see, what is the total confirmed case? And as you can see, United States is, very many, okay? And the Brazil, UK, and all other country over here, and the South Korea is over here. Because United States had too many cases, and that's why I deleted, that one to see other countries, okay? And the UK and the India and Germany, China is going there, and the South Korea is there. As you know, maybe if you remember, the time of March, actually South Korea was the #2 country with most cases of coronavirus. But now it became kind of stable. You can see the fatality rate over here, and there are a lot of people, how many people died, from the confirmed case. And also there are many countries like that, and South Korea was managing very good, okay, in terms of that death rate. Another interesting kind of statistics is going over here. And the left side is the last 14 days, okay? There are the confirmed cases, and this is the death cases. So they were trying to trace like 14 days like this. So like, for example, the USA, is going straight up, okay? So if you are in this area, okay, that means you have a lot of confirmed cases and a lot of deaths. So I think, and that's why the people are trying to pull this down up to this area, lower confirmed and lower deaths. So that is what's going on. So a lot of the countries were doing great. Okay, for example, like France, started over here and then went up all the way and then came back and then stay over here now. If you look at the Korean case, okay, it started over here and with the light sky blue, and it went up to this far, but it went down all the way down here. Okay, so I think we are getting very stable. This is the statistics, in March and April. Okay, so this is not the case right now. So if we can, sit up, look at this, And, this is some of the famous statistics, happened early in March and April. Okay, so this is the kind of, total case. It increased very fast, and it kind of flattened. And that is why the people were, talking about, Korea was successful to flatten the curve. In the case, we had the very peak over here in the end of February and early March. And after April, it became really stable. And because of that, a lot of the countries, were really made the Korean case, as a kind of role model case for many other countries. And so this is kind of things, what's going on. Okay, so they were trying to learn the success stories of Korea and how Korea is returning to new normal after virus. And, success story, this is by CNN and the BBC. And this is the story. And finally, BBC says South Korea has the new cases domestically. So that was kind of praised by it. There are some other good countries like Israel are doing good, and also New Zealand, has the zero confirmed case last 1 week, okay, which is very good. But the little difference is the Korea never enforced complete lockdown of all citizens. And another thing, Korea never closed the border from outside country. The reason why, we didn't do it, and because, as you know, some of you know, the South Korea is heavily depending on the importing and exporting businesses about our economy. So government thought if we block this one, and if we are, applying that kind of complete lockdown, and it's gonna kind of, hit our economy so badly. And that is why they were trying so hard, to find what could be the alternative solution without blocking the border and without applying the complete lockdown by the people from the very beginning. I think that was the wise decision. And also, although there was little struggle and up and downs, and like you saw, okay, had maybe around like 1,000 cases a day, but I think we were managing, okay, that one so far. Another interesting thing, happened, and there was no panic buying in Korea. Okay, maybe, government was doing very good and the people were cooperating, very good in certain ways. So this is kind of statistics and reality of what's going on in Korea and how we have handled this COVID-19 issue. Then, what South Korea has done against COVID-19, and that could be our part to discuss. First of all, I want to introduce the basic about the pandemic or contagious disease like COVID-19, and which is the 3 T's people are talking about. Many of you already have known, and that is this: 3T, test, trace, and treat. And this is not my word, but this is the word by WHO. And the chairman of WHO exactly said, to prevent this pandemic, and countries must isolate, test, treat, and trace. So those are the fundamental how to resolve this kind of contagious disease, and when it is developed into the pandemic, like the issues we are facing right now. So I want to talk about the 3T first, together with you, and how Korea has done it according to that 3T. And I want to add a little part behind as a kind of secret attitude and something people do not see from outside. So let's start with the number 1, which is the test. So about the test dimension, I think, you need to do something very important. And the people suggest, test should be done in a very fast manner. And the Korea has done very good in that way. So they developed the testing kit within 20 days, and which is unheard of. And I'm going to share a little secret behind it, how that was possible. A lot of people thought about how come Korea developed, testing device so fast? Maybe they already had it, but it was not. Actually, we started with from all same ground and the position. But there was something different, we did, and I really appreciate our government, has done. And also, the test in Korea has been developed, after your testing, you're gonna get the confirmation of your testing right now within 12 hours. It used to be the 24 hours, and now, they are trying to shorten the time. And the people say, some people got within 8 hours or 6 hours right now. And testing should be affordable. And a lot of countries, had that problem. And that is why people were not even able afford to take the test, although they had the symptom. But from the very beginning of the Korean context, the good thing has, we had the public health insurance by the government, and which is the very good system, I believe, in comparison to my life in US. And I paid, how much money and how was not covered. And in comparison to it, and it was good. And also the government, from the very beginning, okay, they applied this system of if you are the possible confirmed case because you had a contact or you work with the confirmed case or you visited the certain place another confirmed case person visited. So if you just prove and explain, you can get the testing for free. But if you want to do it for yourself without that reason, you just feel like you want to make sure you are not infected, then you need to pay the 100, maybe $120, okay, which is not that much. And also, if you are confirmed, all the hospital cost will be supported by the government. And that is why people were not afraid to take the test and also get infected and then go to the hospital. So that was the very good, the side of the test. Third one is the test should be accessible and widespread. I think government did a very good job, and the first the accepted and several people apply. This kind of famous known the drive-through testing. It was a brilliant idea by the private sector, and government approved it, and also walk-in testing. I'm going to talk about it a little bit more later, okay, how they started this thing. And the second one was that they were trying to designate the certain special COVID-19 designated hospitals. The most of them were the public health center or public health center unit owned by the government or owned by the city. So they quickly separated and designated certain center or certain hospital within the area, and so that everybody can go and get the test within that area, doesn't need to travel anymore. And I think something was great, okay, by the government was there was no restriction to get the test for any legal status, including the illegal residents. And it was very clear from the beginning. And because the government said, if we do not allow and if we are using the information, okay, of the patient for the future use, and that's gonna block some dangerous, the infected patient not to come to the test. And that is why they were publicly, the opening this one, we're not gonna use any patient information for any other use except the testing. So that was very clear from the beginning. So I think it was the very good message. Yes, there was the famous, the drive-through, the COVID-19 testing center. It was started by the one doctor's suggestion, and the one director accepted within Daegu, which was the very famous COVID-19 cluster within Korea. And people also developed, this kind of safety booths, we call the walk-in testing center. So it will be separated, by the patient and the health professional, and they are using this kind of tool, and the gloves, to do everything, and then kept the testing, and then send that one directly, to the testing center. So they were trying to develop all creative method, to do this, and it was not suggested by the government. It was all suggested by the individual and some of the health professionals. But when it worked, the government was quick enough to take that method and spread that one, to all nationwide. Second part is about the trace. A lot of people are a little bit concerned about this because of privacy issue. And I heard the interview of the Yuval Harari, who is very famous author of the Sapiens and Homo Deus, the very famous author right now. And he was talking about the health issue and this trace issue. And maybe some government, can use that information they collected, buy it, and then use that information to control everybody. So there is the health and the privacy issue is conflicting right now. And he said, when we have this kind of serious, the health issue, and the health issue will overturn the privacy issue. And that's gonna be the future, and that is what he said. A lot of people, especially in the European and American country, are really concerned about their privacy. But I think trace is the one of the main factor to treat this serious disease. So this is what Korean government has done. The number one, that they were trying to tracking all the cases and the places and the workplace and all the related people and contact people. And they were trying to share that information with everybody. So tracking and sharing the routine of infected patient was very transparent and very open to everyone. And because of privacy issue from the very beginning, they were trying to post, all routines, not with the real names. So they were trying to develop, certain way to call the patient. Like if the patient came out in Seoul area, and maybe 19th, the patient, and then they're gonna put the Seoul number 19, and then they're gonna show how they the person moved and what kind of places he visited, and what kind of the time he was there, and that's why the people will know. Maybe I could be the possible person who encountered that person, or at the same time I was sharing the space together with the infected patient. And also another part was they were using the technology very well. Actually, there was some cases people were lying, okay, because they didn't want to reveal, okay, and their kind of routine and what they have done, okay, when they are not really confident about what they have done. The interesting case, right now going on was the re-outbreak, okay, like 2 or 3 weeks ago in Korea, okay, happened within the gay bar. And that was why a lot of people who went there were trying to hide, they were there. But there were a lot of cases came from that bar, and some people lied about their routine. And some professional, of the KCDC, okay, thought, that doesn't make sense, about his explanation about what was going on and where he visited. And that is why, actually government, put kind of, enforcement to track his cell phone use and his credit card use. And finally, they found, some other routine he didn't tell to the KCDC. And that was why they persuaded him to reveal all the routines. And finally, it became routine, okay, revealed. And when those kind of cases were done, and they are the pursuing very proactive testing of the possible clusters. Cluster means, there are the many cases, as you know. So if that person went to a certain place, and if there are more than 2 or 3 cases, and then proactive testing of all those people walk in that place, and all possible contact of that place has been applied. So a good example is the Shincheonji. I don't know how many of you have heard the big case in Korea, okay, skyrocket, high, came from the one religious cult, which is called the Shincheonji, okay? And they are the kind of communal based, the group. And even within this coronavirus issue, okay, they stick together and, they had worship for almost 5 hours. And, the singing songs, and they were hugging each other. And the funny thing was that some people there came from Wuhan, China, where the coronavirus started, but they didn't report anything. And that was why almost like the 5,000 people gathered there, and there were more than 20% of all gathered people over there got infected. And that was the reason why the Korea had a very high confirmed case in March. And for example, when those kind of things happen, and KCDC applied to contact all the participants of that meeting within that group, and they contact all the people to come and get the test, including their families and all the friends and co-workers and possible any contact related to the people, okay, from that group, okay, were invited, and they got the testing for free. And also they were strictly traced by the government, okay, even negative result, but they had to be in the 14 days of quarantine. So it was enforced. So let me show you some example. Okay, this is the good example, and one university student developed, this app in the cell phone, and which is called the Corona Map. Okay, so if you can see, over here, and this is the screen of the cell phone. Okay, so if there is some information of the CDC, okay, and here is the map of the person infected patient, how they moved, showing the routine. So this is another example, and this is another example. Over here, okay, is at from the Gwangju, that is area, and the number 3 patient. Okay, this is the routine of that patient. And sometimes, they are putting this way over here, and, they are saying, okay, over here, it is from the area Bucheon, okay, and I think his number somewhere. So they are putting, this information, it said on the February 15th, he used his own car and moved from Bucheon and the other place. And during that time, okay, on the February 16th, from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock p.m., he attended the worship service and he stayed in the hotel and read the hotel name. And on 17th, at 10 o'clock p.m., he was using his own car and to visit some place of friends. And he stayed in the home, on 19th or 18th. So something like this. So they are showing, okay, that person's routine. So all the people will know I am related to any of these places or cases over here. So people have some connection, okay, with this kind of cases and directly can go to the testing center so that they can get the testing over there. So that is how they have done. Even they were trying to contact all the people and using that device of the credit card and the cell phone use, and they were contacting the people if they do not come out. Let's move on. Okay, number 3, okay, is the treat or isolation. Maybe, we're gonna know, how we need to treat the patient. So I'm not gonna talk about it, for the time use. But, I wanna talk about the treat beyond the infected patient. I think that is more important thing. So first thing, and, if, they got certain patient from certain place, and the first thing, within 6 hours, KCDC will go to that place and they're gonna have the disinfecting, okay, and the walk over there. So all the places, will be clean, okay, and, with disinfecting, okay, the materials. And then number 2, and there are the very good system government developed, and because a lot of people who will get the testing, but still, after the testing, they need to be in quarantine for 14 days. They need to walk. Maybe they need food. So all of those will be provided by the government. So there will be the support for the people in quarantine. Government every day will provide the food for them 3 times a day and delivered by some of the public officials, of that area, including the policemen and including some of the government workers. They're gonna even provide the snack and all kind of life supplies, like toothpaste, or other toilet paper, things like that. And also they were providing some of entertainment things like a book or other game device, things like that. And 3 times a day, they're gonna check in, they are within the quarantine, not going anywhere. If they break the law, okay, they can be arrested and they will be in the kind of, little charge of the lawsuit. Third part is about the social distancing. I think over here, I need to talk about the use of masks. And I still do not understand why other countries, were not heavily enforcing this use of the mask. There has been a little debate about, the ability of the using mask, is gonna really prevent the, virus and whatnot. Actually, but it was very clear when you got infected, it's gonna be very useful not to spread the virus. It was very clear from the beginning. It's not gonna protect you from the virus, Maybe there are some like debate about it, but it is very clear you're not going to spread your virus to other people. And it was very clear from the beginning. Korean government implied that, and that was why the Korean government strictly enforced, everybody please wear the mask from the very beginning. And the Korean government, was providing a lot of the professional expert opinion about it. And that is why the people got educated by it. And that is why, they thought, we need to wear the mask. There has been the little problem of the kind of supply of the mask in the very beginning. And it was good. The KCDC, contact many factories producing factory of the mask, and they have made a deal with that, and government controlled all the supply of the mask after 2 weeks of the corona broke out. And the government controlled, all the supplies, and they heavily applied the, certain law that each person can buy the 2 masks every week by your birth year. So for example, if you were born in 1971, and because you are ending with 71, so you can buy, and you can buy the mask on Monday, something like that. So like if you're born in the 1971 and 76, and then 1 and 6 people will buy the mask on Monday, and 2 and 7 can buy on Tuesday, something like that. So they were trying to control, people cannot buy more than 2 a week, so they cannot like panic buy, of those, and they were trying to control. They applied that one for 1 month, and then when we have the enough supply of the mask, now, they released that kind of restriction. And it was very good, if, you are in Korea, the hand sanitizer was everywhere, and disinfecting spray was everywhere. If you just go somewhere, it's there. It's all the time there. And also government produced, those things, for the people. And a lot of private company made the deal, and it was available for the people. Now, for example, if you go to the restroom, even within a room of the toilet, it has that spray and the hand sanitizer. If you are in elevator, and you're going to see the both of them are located over there. So people are using over and over and over all the time. The last thing, I want to say is, the government and KCDC was very clear, providing the right information as fast as possible. As I said, there is the daily briefing, and also COVID-19, the trace map with media, and the emergency text, SNS, and app, and all other notices. So every morning, I'm living in the condominium, and there is an announcement by the condominium. Sometimes if there is any case within that area, have the confirmed case. And they are noticing that one to the old people who are not using the cell phone. And also, I'm getting certain emergency message, from the local government. And for example, I'm in the Songdo, Incheon, and within Songdo area, if there is certain case happen, today, and they're gonna send me, the emergency warning text, this kind of case, confirmed case, came out within that area, and if you visit that, you need to go to hospital and get the testing. So that is automatic. And sometimes, I'm getting bothered, too much, because sometimes, I'm getting around like 15 or 20, those kind of emergency texts by the government every day. Let me move on. So I think it was very good. They were very fast, to disinfecting the places of the cases. And they were trying to control those kind of things. Now I want to move on to the last part, which I feel I really want to share together with you. I'm trying to title this one as a secret behind the scene in Korea. And I was trying to put as SOS. Okay. The first S is this: how Korea was successful about this issue because of the speed. I think it was very good and very the clear example, because this pandemic, this kind of disease need the clear speed is just the matter, biggest matter, okay, to control, okay, those things. Another thing, I want to really emphasize is the openness or transparency. Government was very good to open up any expert opinion, professional opinion about this, and they were willing to listen and work together. And when they know something, they were not trying to hide anything. They were trying to open up everything to the public and let public decide what could be the best way. Maybe I'm praising my government too much, because it was very different around 5 years ago. I'm going to talk about a little bit, when the other president was there, and there was the case of MERS. So we're going to talk about that a little bit. And it was horrible. And we had a very bad experience, from it. There are some comparison, you can see. And this government was very open and very transparent, for all the things. I think that was why people were willing to trust KCDC, and they believe the KCDC is doing the right thing, and they are sharing all right information to everyone. So they earned the trust from the people, and that was why it was working for all the people, within the community. Let me show you some of it. So this is the present moon, of the current government right now. And I think that there is one of the the success foundation of the Korea is the testing tool of the coronavirus. And that is something I wanna talk a little bit. Yeah, I think there has been a lot of news, and I heard already 160 countries required, and we're trying to import the Korean testing device into their countries. And the most of European countries, testing is done by the Korean kids. So now, it is becoming kind of, world standard, for this testing kit. And as you can see on the left side, and the Korea is sending that kit, as a gift, to the country who helped Korean war. Okay, some country like Ethiopia, okay, some countries like Iran, okay, and the government was, giving this testing kit as a good reward and the present, for the people, as a good sign of supporting and cooperating together. So that is what's going on. Let me talk about, how Korea developed this testing kit earlier than any other country. And I think it was the secret of the Korean success. Without the testing kits, we were not able to do anything. There was a documentary, okay, in Korean TV, because a lot of people were asking. We didn't know even, why we had that testing kit so early than any other countries. And they were sharing the secret story. And let me share that one. I think we can learn something out of it. Yes, there has been a meeting on the date when the first confirmed case of Korea and who was the Chinese traveler to Korea, okay, and found out. And that was the January 27th. It was the last day of the New Year's holiday in the lunar calendar. So people didn't pay attention at all. And we just heard, there are something going on in China, but nobody cared about, it might be the problem in Korea at all. Because there was one confirmed case in Korea who was the Chinese traveler. But KCDC during that time thought this might be a very serious problem because there are a lot of travelers between the Korea and China. And that was why the KCDC, the government, called the meeting, we called the Seoul Station meeting. And the people said that was the birthplace of the Korean testing kits. Let me share that. So three people, three parties, got together. The first one was Korean CDC, so government. And the other one were the Dr. Kim, who treated the first patient in Korea who was a Chinese traveler. And he was the medical professional, and he was trying to collect all the information because she was the only case, within Korea. And he kind of, stored all the information and the data within himself. And also he was trying to collect and learn other things, with it. Together with him, Korean government called the 20 private pharmaceutical companies. And they said they had no idea why the government was calling them. But that was the meeting. KCDC were asking, we need to develop this testing kit as soon as possible. And they promised the two things. The first, all the developing costs will be covered by the government. Number two, if there is a testing kit developed, and we're gonna expedite all the approving process and guaranteed. So a lot of people were thinking about it, but they were not sure how much money they need to invest, and also they were not sure, it's gonna be successful. And also they said we had to stop all other business to focus on this developing testing kits. But with the government promise and with the promise of expedite process of approval, and they said, yes, we are able to do it. Within 15 days, one company developed the first kit and it has been approved within a week. And within 25 days, 6 more companies developed the testing kits. And 4 of them were approved. And within 1 month, they said the pharmaceutical companies developed their testing kit and all of them were approved. With clear data Dr. Kim provided and all the resources and the sample virus provided by the Dr. Kim and also KCDC. I mean, in the documentary, they said, what kind of privilege, this could be. And this could be just money generating, kit and the great business, for certain people. And they could use this secret, to develop certain kit and get a lot of money out of it. Maybe government, can use their power and authority to control that thing a little bit and relate that one to somebody who has the privilege and get the rebate from it. And all kind of rumors, could happen. The bad way was possible, but they did not. They were transparent and they were open and they were fast. And they opened and shared all the information to the companies. So companies were able to develop this testing kit. And those testing kits were available before the major breakout of Korea happened. I think that was why it was possible to control the things. I think this is the great story and something we need to learn. Lastly, I want to talk about the most important thing to us. Maybe some of the other part are about the medical approach and government approach, but maybe to us, who are the educators, maybe we got to think about this thing a little bit serious. I want to add last as the spirit of community of Korean people. I think there are the certain spirit we call, like, some of you know, in African spirit, there is the Ubuntu, okay? And the sense of community. I am because we are. There is a community spirit in Korea is there, and it is working, especially in this kind of time of crisis and time of suffering. I think that has been there within Korea, and it has been educated and it has been developed. I don't think it is just naturally there, but people were trying to walk those things and trying to educate people to have that kind of mind within Korea. Let me share the very interesting thing. As I talked about, in the previous government, which is, 2015, okay, there was the big case. It is related to coronavirus too. So it was MERS. You know what happened, and it was the deadly disease during that time. No more fatality rate, okay, than the coronavirus. As you can see over here, okay, so South Korea was number 2 infected country in the world during that time. During the time, there was no KCDC. It was the part of the health department. During the time, government blocked all the information because, they thought, this not gonna be very well accepted by the public. So they hide those things. And also some of the hospital, they were concerning about patient will not be, if there is the reveal of the MERS case within that hospital, they hid some of the information. So there was the blocked communication, and it was why suddenly South Korea became the number 2 all over the world. Except the major countries, South Arabia, okay, where it all started. I think this terrible experience of Koreans about MERS really opened up our eyes. So after experiencing these cases, government approved KCDC and also trying to develop all possible cases and processes to stop that kind of thing never happen again. I think that is one of the things. And also during the time, people were allowed to be very careful about this kind of spreading disease. And also it was very careful for the people to follow the government law. So case like this, as you can see, they're close, it was the winter. It was the very beginning of the coronavirus in Korea, okay? And as you can see, people were wearing masks from the very beginning. And they are still doing it. It's getting hot. It's not easy. But if you do not wear mask, actually it is just Korean thing, okay? And the people will stare at you. Because of our culture, they're not gonna say anything, but they're gonna stare at you, and maybe they'll pull out the mask and then hand that one to you. So that is the culture over here, and it has been there all the time. As you know, Korea went through the Korean War, Japanese colonization, separation of North and South Korea. It was the history of suffering. And that is why the Korean people know, and we need to get together and we need to support each other, especially in this kind of time of crisis. When we have the IMF crisis, because of that, some economic problem in 1997, okay, there was a movement among the people. We're gonna collect all the gold we have. And the people collected the gold and gave all of them to the government to pay back the debt of the nation. So it was kind of cases, we developed. And also another case, they were trying to develop, in this maybe postmodern era, was a lot of public people, just individual, were becoming very creative to develop many, many good campaigns using SNS or using any kind of social media. People were trying to develop certain program to support some of the map, like that university student. And some people were trying to develop, certain campaign, okay, like I wanna be the good landlord. Everybody is suffering together, and that's why I'm not gonna get the monthly rent. And they are calling the campaign as the good landlord campaign. Funny thing is, a lot of celebrities who are owning the, many real estate, okay, they participated that one. So, they were claiming, okay, for next 3 months, I'm not gonna get the rent fee, from all the tenants, within my building. And some of the government, the workers, they were returning their salaries to support the other people who are in need more. So there has been a lot of those kind of campaign, and those people also developed those kind of campaign I shared, and somebody came up with Corona cannot defeat Korea. And they make that one as a campaign within SNS, and people were influenced by it. So those are the communal sense and community spirit they were trying to develop. I think schools and the teachers and also religious leaders have done great job to continue and support those kind of things. I think that is something we can learn. Yesterday, there was a very interesting interview by famous Michael Sandel from the Harvard University, who wrote What is Justice? And he had the interview how Korea was successful about COVID-19 issue. And he put these things: South Korea's great sense of community and a social cohesion as what has driven progress in the fight against the new coronavirus. I think that he was talking about the same thing I was trying to say. Also, he continued like this: I think one important difference is whether there is a strong enough sense of community so that people are willing to approach this crisis in a spirit of shared sacrifice to combat the virus and to promote public health and seek the common good. And he was also talking about a good example of that spirit is Korean campaign of good landlord campaign and the prepayment campaign. Prepayment campaign is because a lot of restaurants and the little store in the local area having trouble. And that's why if you love that restaurant and that store, and you're gonna go there and you're gonna pay maybe $500 in advance, okay? And so that they can survive with that money, but you're gonna get maybe like $30 this time, but you're gonna deposit that money, for that store, and then you're gonna use that money later, little by little, and that is helping the small business people to survive within this critical time. And the Sharing Sacrifice campaign, and they were trying to, develop some thankful note and thankful kind of, messages, to the medical professionals, and providing a lot of snacks and the food. And, they were willing to, do it. I think this is, almost all. And this is another thing, people were trying to give their thanks, to the medical professionals and trying to develop that sense of togetherness, I think, which was really helping the Korea and to be in control of COVID-19 issue. I think something I learned is, although we are struggling, I think within that struggle, we need to develop certain kind of positive spirit so that people can willingly participate and be proud of. I think that was what was going on in Korea. And some of the good reputation from other countries about Korea really helped. And they accelerate those kind of positive attitude of Koreans a lot more. So I think, we need to teach the children and the students, under this kind of crisis, I think we need to talk about the positive things. Something like the Corona cannot defeat Korea. That is the campaign I think we need to develop. That's it. Thank you for listening.